Hello, everybody, and welcome to Papercuts Live, coming to you from all over the world here. So Papercuts is a live session that allows you to learn more about things like document automation and how you can get the most out of our document services APIs. As part of our session today, we're going to be focused on our service PDF Extract API. But before we get into that, let's level set and learn a little bit more quickly about what Document Services is. So Document Services is our set of APIs that allow you to take any of your document processes and help automate them from end to end as part of the document lifecycle. And that includes things like Document Generation API, which allows you to take your Word-based templates, connect that with data, and generate things like Word documents and PDFs, all with things like conditional logic, be able to merge images, and also dynamically add tables and so forth. Then we have our PDF services, which is all those actions that you may be familiar with in things like Adobe Acrobat, like OCR, combining PDFs, exporting them into different formats that we make available as APIs for you to easily incorporate into your apps. Then there's PDF Extract API, which we'll learn more about in just a moment. And we have PDF Embed API, which is about our being able to embed PDF experiences onto your website. Along with that, there's also Adobe Sign API, which is around being able to capture electronic signatures in a legally binding, compliant way that you can easily embed into your applications as well. So all of these different services. And again, today we're going to focus on PDF Extract API and how we can use that in a couple of different ways to extract information, republish content, as well as glean insights into that, into the information in there. So as our agenda today, we are going to be doing some news and updates on some of the new things that have been happening with Document Services. Then we're going to have Joel talk through some of the things with PDF Extract API. And then we have some guests today from Aftia, where Jeff and Adia are going to be talking about some of the ways that they're using PDF Extract API to really help with analyzing forms for some of their customers. And then we'll spend some time at the very end making sure that we answer any of your questions as we go through here. But while we're going through, please ask your questions in the windows. If you're on YouTube, it should be on the right-hand side. If it's LinkedIn, it's down below. Please ask any of your questions. We do see them coming in, and we will try to answer as many of them live as we're going through. So with that, let's switch over here over to news. And I'd like to bring on Joel and Ray to give us a couple of updates on what's going on in the news. And we'll start off, but let's introduce them. So Joel, why don't you introduce yourself? Joel, you're on mute.
Thank you. I was on local mute. So thanks, Ben. My name is Joel Jurassic, and I'm on the evangelism team for our PDF services APIs.
And Ray.
Ray Camden. I'm also on our evangelism team. Hi.
And AKA Jedi Master, it seems today. All right, cool. So let's jump in, and we'll start off with MultiSigner Web Forms. So Joel, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so this is one of the more exciting new developments with Adobe Sign. Adobe Sign Web Forms have been around for quite a while. We used to call them widgets, but they were essentially just a form-filling application. Now, and you could have a single signer. Now we have the ability to add co-signers to it, and as you're developing your web form, you can determine who that co-signer is going to be. So with this multi-signer workflow, it really opens up the possibilities for web forms for additional use cases.
Awesome, that's cool. And one of the things that I love about that is that you can also embed those into your website very easily. So I'm just imagining all of those different PDFs that I go to, like my banking site, and there's a huge list of those different PDFs that you can easily convert those over to Adobe Sign links, and you can have them available for people to fill out and sign, but also if you have like co-applicants or co-account owners, allows it to be able to use those as well there.
Exactly.
So awesome. Thanks on that one.
Sure.
We have another update for Adobe Sign, which is something called liquid mode signing. Now, I'm sure many of you have had some of that challenge where you've either received like a PDF in your email and you click and open it up and you're having to pinch and zoom to try to view and sign that PDF, which is never a great experience. So what Adobe Sign now has is liquid mode allows you to be able to send documents that are responsive on mobile devices. So as you're scrolling through, if you have form fields, if you have places where you need to sign, you're not having to pinch and zoom in order to view and sign it. You can read it. It's a responsive and designed for mobile devices. You sign it and complete it, and it will still output an actual PDF document. It just makes it a much easier responsive experience there. So that's a very cool addition that's now available. Right now, it's only available with HTML documents for you to be able to utilize, but you can also, we'll have some updates in the coming months on some more exciting things around there. If you're not familiar also with liquid mode, liquid mode's also available in Acrobat Reader, which you can take all your different PDFs on your mobile device, and it will turn it into a responsive thing. It's totally free, so go check that out inside of Acrobat Reader there. So on the next topic, we have new document generation playground. So Ray, tell us a little more about that.
Absolutely. Document generation is one of my favorite new services, specifically because it's one of the few APIs where it's the kind of thing you write a bit of code and then you're essentially done and you do most of your work creating your Word template. As a programmer, using Microsoft Word to create beautiful PDFs is just awesome to me. And what's nice is that we have 2 new updates that make this API, I think, even more enticing for people who may not be traditional programmers or who want to kind of see how it works without writing a line of code. The first thing that we have is the new document generation playground. Let me share my screen. And comme ça, like that. All right, y'all seeing my screen okay?
Yep.
So this is our playground, and we have, let's reload this. We have multiple different very nice templates. If you've read any of my blog posts on document generation, most of my Word templates are incredibly simple. And as I say, I was not hired to make pretty things, but these templates are nice looking. They're definitely very professional looking. You can go in here, you can pick one. I will do invoice and just click continue. And then what I will get is a set of sample data. I'll get to look at the Microsoft Word template, and I see all the tokens highlighted in yellow for me to make it a bit easier to see what is going to be replaced. And literally, I can just click generate document and see the final result based on that sample data. And we'll let this work, and then I will show. And then once it's done, if I want to, I can download it from here. But what's cool is that all via this online playground, I can even upload my own Word templates. And in case you didn't see it, when you do select one, even though we have sample data, you can actually tweak this and upload your own data as well and just see how things differ as you generate the document. Again, all of this done via the web. I didn't have to write a lick of code, and it's a really great professional example of how well this service works.
Very cool. Awesome. And we have also one more update going on, which is on the other side of it with document generation tagger in Microsoft Word. So tell us a little more about that.
Absolutely. So when the API launched, we had this Microsoft add-in that let you work in Microsoft Word, upload or copy and paste some JSON data in, and then start designing the template to add the tokens and so forth. But you still had to write code to take the Word document and then generate your dynamic PDF or your dynamic Word document. what we've done is updated the add-in to completely remove all that. Now you'll see we have a new continue without JSON data that you can click. And going in here, you can actually start creating your own tags. So for example, I know my data is going to have a name value. So I'll call it name. I can define what type it is. It's going to be a simple string. I'll click go ahead and create another. And we'll say cool. And we'll say that's a Boolean, true or false. And then for the heck of it, we'll do one more age and say that is a number. And I'll say I'm done with that. So what's nice is that not being a developer, I didn't have to create a packet of JSON. I didn't have to reach out and get that made for me. I was able to generate those tags in here, and then I could just start using Word. And again, remember, I don't make pretty documents. And then just start using our things here. I am so many years old, and even do things like basic conditionals. So we will say if cool, if present, insert condition, and say I am definitely cool. So that part's really nice. You don't have to have sample data anymore. We can kind of walk you through building that. The last part is freaking amazing, is that once you've done with this document and it looks great, I can then just click generate document. It'll have some sample data in there that I could tweak if I want to. I'll say Raymond, and obviously I'm cool, and I am some large number age old. Hit continue. And it's actually doing what my code would normally do. It's doing this all for me. I just click view document and I am done. And I could see it there and I could download it again. And if I didn't like that, if I wanted to tweak it a bit, if I wanted to make this like a heading 1, for example, and make this italic, and that is the extent of how well I design Word documents, I can do that and hit continue and say just generate it again. You know, let's see what happens. And I could see my update. And again, I didn't have to write any code at all. I love writing code, but this is awesome.
This is awesome. And I think one of the things I love about it is that it means that designers or lawyers or anybody who they live in the world of Word, they don't have to go into the scary world sometimes of code and all that type of stuff. It allows them to easily be able to tag their templates inside of there. So thanks, Ray. That was awesome. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to switch over to our main topic, which is PDF Extract API. What is PDF Extract API? What are the cool things that you can do with it? That's going to be the main topic. We're going to have Joel talk about that. But before we get into that, we have a quick video that we're going to show that just tells us a little bit more about what PDF Extract API is. Adobe PDF Extract API is a service that allows you to take your PDF documents and turn them into JSON data. PDF Extract API goes beyond optical character recognition or OCR. It uses AI and machine learning powered by Adobe Sensei to understand the structure of PDF content and turn it into readable data that computers can easily understand. While there are services and libraries that exist to convert PDFs into other formats, most have challenges discerning the structure of document titles, tables, headers, and other content to reliably extract data at scale. For example, some systems may read from left to right and have difficulty detecting columns on a page. Some systems may extract the text but entirely ignore styling information. Many fail to understand the relationship of paragraphs and tables that span across pages. And most systems find it difficult to accurately parse tables. PDF Extract API helps solve all of these challenges with best-in-class PDF extraction. When you use PDF Extract API, you simply pass your PDF to the service. The service will return a package with the content of the document as JSON data, the tables as CSV files, and the images that are embedded in the PDF. The extracted data and content can then be imported into your content management system, CRM, or databases, and processed downstream by machine learning or analytics engines. Let's look at an example. In the PDF on the left, we can see the selected paragraph. On the right, we can see the paragraph in the JSON data, which includes all the associated metadata, such as the location on the page, as well as the styling information. This data can then be transformed into other formats, such as HTML, or imported into databases. Similarly, tabular data in PDFs can also be extracted separately. If the tables span across pages, PDF Extract API will recognize this and provide a CSV file with all the data in the table across pages. PDF Extract API can be used for a variety of use cases, from republishing content into new formats like your website, extracting data tables and importing them into your databases, or helping eliminate manual tasks of rekeying information from PDFs into data systems by empowering automated data extraction from PDFs. Access to PDF Extract API is available through Adobe PDF Services API, which you can access through Node, Python, or Java SDKs. REST APIs are also available. With over 2.5 trillion PDFs in the world, unlock the data inside them using Adobe PDF Extract API. All right, cool. So that's a little bit of a quick view of what PDF Extract API is, but I'm going to pass it over to Joel to show us a little bit more.
Great. Thanks a lot, Ben. One of the really interesting things about Extract API was shown perfectly in the video, and that's the ability for Extract to essentially deconstruct the page and understand what the layout looks like and give you the text in proper reading order, but also all of that extra metadata to help you identify what parts of the document and how each of those elements that are in the document relate to each other. You're going to see that in one of my demos in just a minute. Excuse me. But let me start off by showing you what the Extract API looks like from a code perspective, and then I'll go into my visualizer, which will make it a little bit easier to understand what it's doing. Then I'm going to show you a practical example, and then we're going to bring on some of our guests to show you how real customers are working with the Extract API to do real work, which is not what I do. One thing I did want to mention is while Ray does not make the prettiest demo files, his code is gorgeous. I learn something new every time I look at his sample code. So take a look at his stuff. The demo files, a little plain. The code is beautiful. Really, really beautiful, as a matter of fact. So anyway, let me go ahead and share my screen. And hopefully we won't get the barbershop effect too much today. I'll bounce over to Visual Studio Code. So I'm just here in Visual Studio Code. This should look pretty familiar to anybody who's done any kind of development in JavaScript. I have already downloaded the full PDF Services SDK, and I downloaded it with my credentials intact. So those parts of the SDK are included here. So I really can just go ahead and run this.
Hey, Joel, would you make your screen just a little bit larger? Just do a Command plus on that.
How's that?
One more.
One more. How's that?
There we go. Much better. Thanks.
Thank you so much. That's always the thing that I forget to do. So let me just open up a terminal here. And I'm going to run the first sample, the extract text from PDF. This will just get the text from the PDF file. So let me copy that because I don't like typing, mostly because I type not unlike a cat. And you can see it just basically runs. It will dump the file into this output folder. If I open this up in Finder, I can just open up the extracted file and I get the structured data file. So very straightforward. Now, this is a little hard to understand what's going on here. The PDF file that I extracted the text from is this one right here, which I'm showing in Acrobat. And here's the JSON output. Let me go from here. I'm going to switch over to the visualizer application that I wrote to more easily navigate and understand what this JSON actually is doing. So let me minimize that and get to the right tab here. There we go. Okay, so here's that exact same PDF file. And I've just built a little UI to select what I'm going to extract from, or what I want to extract from this file. So this is just leveraging the same API that I showed you in code, but I'm just allowing myself to have a UI to set what I want to get. So I want to get the text, I want to get the tables. I'm going to skip over the styling information for the time being, but I also want to create a rendition for the tables, any figures. And if I don't check this box, what I will get in the output is actually an Excel file. If I check it, I'll get a CSV, but if I leave it unchecked, or I don't set that property in my code, I'll get an Excel file. So now I just can hit extract. The extraction will run, should take basically the same amount of time as the last one that I ran. And here we go. So now you can see the JSON has been broken up into chunks, and I'm highlighting a single element at a time. In the JSON, you get some version information about what's been sent. You get the metadata about the file, and this is just a little bit of information about the file. It's not actually the file metadata that you see when you're looking at the metadata in Acrobat. It's a subset of that. And then what we have is an array, a flat array. Actually, it's a hierarchical array now if you add the styling information. But you get a flat array for all the elements that Extract was able to find in the document. So what I'm going to do is, you can see it's highlighting element by element, and these are just JSON objects. You can see I've got the bounding information here, where it lies on the page. And remember that PDF coordinates, with PDF coordinates, 0, 0 is in the lower left, not the upper left corner of the page. So this 757 means it's higher on the page than you might think if you're thinking about the coordinates in the other way. But as I go through this, you can see it's actually found some of the text. So I'll just click on this piece here, and you can see that it's highlighted over here. On the left side here, I've got our Embed API displaying the PDF file, and on the right side is just the JSON. So with our Embed API, I'm able to use the bounding information here to send a highlight into what that element is over on the Embed API side. So you can see as I go from element to element, it's showing me where that is in the document. So I can see that this is an H1. This is a heading. You can tell that from the path. So it's a document. It's in section 2. It's the heading. Section 1, by the way, is this table of contents over here, in case you were wondering. And I can go through and look at some interesting parts. Let's scroll down a little bit further because I've got a list here. So let me find that. Oops. There we go. So if I click down in the list, you can see here, you can barely see it. Scroll in there. The table of contents is showing up as a list. I can see that this is the list label, meaning that's the number 1. And if I scroll down and I click on this element, you can see that the word overview has been highlighted, and I can see that that's the list body. So it's differentiating between, like, if you've got a bulleted list or a numeric list or things like that, you can identify what the list label is and put the appropriate character in whatever system you're going to be displaying this in or trying to understand it. It also is able to identify tables. So let me find one of those. And here we've got the table down here has been identified. Now, what's interesting about this is, in addition to the JSON, I can also show the actual table data, and this is the Excel file. The Excel file is being projected into the HTML window, so I just have some code to do that. But this is actually an Excel file. If I were to download this, I'd be able to open that in Excel. And of course, I've also got my figures, which is the logo that we've got up at the top of the page. So that's just a little bit about what the JSON output looks like and the other file parts that you can get. By the way, in addition to the table data, I can also have an image of the table. So you can see that here. That's a table rendition. But let me bounce over to another example I have. This is a practical use case example. So I'm going to start in this in this UI here that I built. Let me flip over to Acrobat for just a second and show you the original PDF file. This is the PDF file that I'm using for that demo that I'm about to show you. And you can see the bookmarks here. There's 4 of them, and they take you down to the membership area of the committee that put this report together. So I've got the membership, the chair, the voting members, and the ex officio members here. They all basically take you to the same couple of pages towards the end of the document. And they're not particularly useful for navigating throughout the document because, as you can see, there's a whole lot of document before I get to those pages. And what I might want to do is look for things like this, this Roman numeral with the word background in bold that distinguishes it from other parts of the document. If I scroll through, you'll see eventually I will get to the second heading. No. Where is that one? Oh, it's in here. Oh, there we go.
There was something that could help me understand where that other heading was.
Yeah, really, like a find. Thank you, Ben. Okay, so now I'm in, I found the third heading. I'll find the second heading. But again, I think we can all agree that these bookmarks are not particularly useful. So what I did was I ran this file through Extract, and now I'm using that to drive this user interface on the right. So on the left, on the right, I've got Embed API again. I love using Embed API. But on the left side here, I've got this HTML panel that I built based on the output from Extract. So Extract gave me some H1s, the headings, and some H2s. And also the location in the PDF file of where those headings are. So I can very easily now just simply use clicks and the API and the Embed API to read the JSON file, generate this list, and create links that take me to those locations in the document. Now, additionally, that's okay. That's interesting a little bit if you don't have the right bookmarks. But what this lets me do is search through and actually do a context-sensitive search. I can look for the word market. This is a financial services document. And the word, I could do any conjunction here. Let's say governance, and I want it in the same paragraph. I could also do in the same sentence if I wanted to. But let's just say in the same paragraph, because I know this search works, and that's how you do a demo. So I'll go ahead and click search. And what happens immediately is I search through the extract JSON file, find the paragraph that I want, locate the highlights, but then what I can do is project those highlights into the document using the APIs for Embed API. So this is a combination of our Extract API plus the Embed API to create an experience where I'm able to do a fairly sophisticated search that normally you can't do in Acrobat and display this PDF file where the search results are in context in the document. So with that, I will turn it over to Ben for introductions for our special guest speaker, which I'm very excited about because they've built something just fantastic. When I saw it, my jaw dropped a little bit, and then I understood what I was looking at, and it dropped even further. So Ben, take it away.
All right. So one plug that I also want to give, thank you, Joel, for walking us through that. And Joel did a great article very recently around how you can to learn more about the structure of those PDFs and kind of understanding the structure of that JSON data. So check out that article to learn more about how you can understand that there. But what I'd like to do is I'd like to invite on Jeff Stanier from Aftia to see some of the ways that Aftia is using the Extract API to help their customers solve a number of different challenges. So Jeff, welcome. You are our first guest on Papercuts.
Thanks, Ben. It's an honor. We really appreciate you having us on. I'm just going to bring up a couple of slides here and tell you a little bit more about ourselves and our customer and a really neat use case. So hopefully you can see the slides now. As Ben mentioned, we're from Aftia. I'm a principal consultant with Aftia, and joining me to answer some of your questions a little bit later is Adia, and she is I think the senior solutions analyst. She's the primary developer on this application, has done a fantastic job. So she'll help answer some of your questions later. So a little bit about Aftia and who we are. We are an Adobe solution partner. So we implement solutions for customers based on Adobe technology and also Microsoft. Our primary focus is around capture, process, and sign. So capture being data capture through things like forms, processing like workflow, as well as document generation, and then signatures using e-signatures and Adobe Sign. That's kind of our main area of focus and the things that we've been doing for the past several years. And we've been working with a customer that I want to tell you a little bit about and show you our practical application of the PDF Extract API and the PDF Embed API. So our customer is a Fortune 500 financial services customer. And like anybody in a regulated industry like healthcare, financial services, or government, they're powered by forms and documents. All the transactions that people do with a financial services company all sort of go through forms. So if you want to apply for anything or change anything, forms are the way to make that happen, and they're the way to create those transactions. And they've been implementing the Adobe Experience Manager forms to improve their data capture, as well as their electronic signatures, workflows, and the overall customer experience. And they've been on this journey for a little over a year. They have about 150 forms now on the platform. They're migrating them over from just a static PDF. And in total, they have about 900 forms in this particular group that we're working with. And they have used the concept of fragments extensively and have saved over 7,000 hours of form development time using these fragments. And I'll explain what fragments are in just a second. And they use these and have created basically a library of these fragments that they use whenever they create a new form. They can drop them in and leverage those. So the problem that they had was, as they start to do more and more of this, how do they identify that common content in over 750 PDFs that they have to convert, some of them being up to 40 pages long? So we wanted to try and find a way to help them. Just to reiterate a little bit about form fragments. They are sort of this reusable component, a chunk of a form, and they can live outside in a separate file. And the fragments contain not only the text and the form fields, but also logic. It could be script or validation patterns, as well as the binding to backend systems. So they're doing pre-fill of these forms as well. And so this chunk can be extracted and then placed in a form when you create it. That's a little bit about what the developer experience looks like. So the solution that we came up with, well, first of all, we tried a couple of other things before we stumble along the PDF Extract API. We looked at some print stream comparison tools, and what these are really good for is comparing two versions of a document. So if you have some changes and you want to scan those two together and look at them and see the small changes that have been made, they're perfect for that. They weren't really good for this solution because we're trying to find only a partial match really in a very long document. We looked at some Java tools like Apache PDF Box. And we also looked at some image comparison libraries. I want to have a little shout out to Pat Legault, one of our developers as well. He was really instrumental in finding the solution to this. We tried all of these things and we really couldn't find anything that worked. And we thought we'd have to give up, but we discovered the PDF Extract API beta and started working with that very early on. And the great thing is, as Joel was talking about there, is the JSON representation of the PDF really makes it easy to do a comparison of text, the size, the bounding boxes around objects and paragraphs, as well as font. And if you've worked with PDF before, in a machine readable way, it's very difficult to read a PDF. They look beautiful. You may have, columns that go up and down, but when you try and actually consume that as a machine readable way, that's not easy to do. The JSON representation really breaks that down really well and lets us do a great comparison. And the nice thing about it is, it's part of Adobe's AI-based cloud solutions, and it's going to continue to improve as they go along in terms of the PDF recognition. So we didn't have to embed some static library in our application. We know we can leverage this API, and it'll continue to improve over time. And we found a number of use cases. I'll talk about those in a second here. What I think I'll do is show you our first use case. This is a work in progress, so we are developing these different use cases for the customer. And then I'll explain a little bit about some of the things that we're going to be doing next for them. So first, just to show you what these forms look like. This is one of the forms. It's a 38-page form, a massive beast. And as I mentioned, they have hundreds of these, 750 to convert and find the fragments in. And this is a PDF version of one of those fragments. So our goal here is to help them take some of the forms that they want to convert and identify if there are any potential fragments in the form that they're doing conversion on. And they can quickly do that and find a way to embed those into the forms that they're building and leverage that, that fragment capability to save them so many hours of development time. So we have built an application for them. It's a web-based application. We want it to be really simple. Some of the users are not technical users. So we wanted to really make it easy for them to use the application. And we're working through some of the UI with them right now. So our first use case is to just go ahead and select that form that I showed you. And then I'm going to hit begin. And then that is going to do a comparison. So it's taking the JSON representation of the form, the JSON representation of the fragments, and searching through those and trying to do a comparison. It's providing us with a confidence level. So we are looking at a fuzzy match on the text, as well as things like the font size, the font family, and the bounding boxes and orientation to help give us a comparison and give our users an idea of how confident we are that there is a match there. So once this is run, we now get a list of the fragments that are candidates for use in this form. And one thing that we've done here then is help them go find that in the form. So once we've got our results, we can just click on this. It tells us that it's on page 17 of the form. And we'll go straight to the form. And then using the PDF Embed API, we can actually identify right in the form where that potential fragment is. They can check it out, do a comparison, and decide whether that's something they want to use. And of course, as they go along, they may realize that they've got some things that are common and close, and maybe they want to do some standardization and create some more fragments out of those. So that's our sort of our key demo here. I just want to go back to my screen. Pardon me. And tell you just about the other use cases as well. So this is our primary use case that we're developing now, and that's finding the fragments within one form. But some of the other things that we're going to do for them is you have this collection of 750 forms. Are there fragments in there that don't already exist in our fragment library? So we're going to compare all of those forms with each other and with themselves to figure out whether there's some common components that we can break out into fragments. Another use case for them is content crawl. So sometimes they have to search their forms for particular terms. So it might be a regulation change and they need to go and find everything that needs to get changed. The content crawl will help them do that and be able to search on it. And Joel showed a great example of, of those sort of complex searches. That's what they need. They need to be able to find sort of associated pieces of content that may not just be a plain keyword search. And then finally, one of the things I'm really excited about is we're going to use this to help identify ways we can collate and rationalize the forms collection. So for some forms, there are a whole family of forms that are very similar. Maybe there's a difference between those forms only based on state, a particular clause that needs to go in there. We're going to compare all of their forms and figure out where we can create a central template that dynamically pulls in the fragments to complete those forms. So you might have 50 forms to represent all 50 states. That could be combined into one single form and dynamically pull in those fragments anytime that you need it. An IDC did a study recently for Adobe on form rationalization, and most big organizations like this can rationalize their forms by up to 30%. So there's a huge savings for them in terms of the work that they would have to do to manage that forms collection over time. Well, thanks. Just wanted to show you, one of our practical applications. We're really excited about delivering this to the customer and going after some of their additional use cases. Well, Ben, I'll turn it back to you.
Well, Jeff, thank you so much for showing that. I think that's such a cool demo that shows some of the ways that you can take all that information that exists inside those PDFs and get some of that analysis that you have to understand the content. And you had some great examples of where that actually has customer need. Compliance is a big aspect there. You have the I know that there was a lot of jobs when I was a kid that was, pushing paper, sorting paper, and all that type of stuff. And even in the digital world, there's still a lot of manual steps that people are going through and reviewing PDFs. So I love that example of how you're taking that and using that to analyze things. So what I want to do is I actually want to invite a few other people on and have a little bit of a discussion about some of these topics. New to the discussion, Adia, why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure thing. My name's Adia Lane. Very happy to be here. I'm one of the developers with Aftia. I'm half consultant, half developer. So my job is to do two things simultaneously, which is create code and solutions, but also to dream of solutions that haven't been thought of just yet. I like to create problems and then solutions for them. That's one way to put it.
Awesome, cool. So as we look at some of the things that you guys built, and by the way, for everybody who is joining us live, please feel free to drop in your questions, and we'll be happy to jump in and answer them as we go through here. So, Adia, as a developer on this, what was kind of that first time of experience using PDF services and using Extract? How difficult was it for you to get started or get to Hello World?
Yes, that certainly was my first interest. I've been working with PDFs for a long time. It's pretty common to be working with them. It's Excel or it's PDFs. So I know that if you want to draw something out of them or do anything further than just create them, what I really wanted was, okay, what am I going to get? And what is it going to look like? And I was very pleased. I was just given some code, thankfully directly from Adobe, but you can imagine it was just being from, extract.com/example, and it was just go to Java, pop this in, go see what happens. And honestly, the most annoying thing was trying to figure out where to put my private key. That was the hardest part. Where do I put this so I don't lose it? And honestly, boom, I had JSON, and I could feed in whatever PDF I wanted. There were a few that weren't quote unquote supported, but I understand it's already being changed and improved. But right off the bat, I got Hello World pretty much given to me on a silver platter.
And how long did it take you to figure out like the structure of the JSON format, the information that you were getting back about the PDF? How easy was it for you to kind of grasp what data you were getting so that you could use it and manipulate it?
It was pretty much instantaneous. I think JSON is a good selection for that. I don't know how many times I've looked at a XML output or something like that. and immediately thought, wow, I have no idea what this is. But JSON's very human readable, so it's a choice. There were certain pieces of info in there that I could ignore, that I had no idea what it was and no use for it. That didn't last long. And this is before I bothered to look at the API. I just got some JSON. What I started doing right off the bat is I didn't even use the service. I just kept in mind, this JSON is from the service, so it's all going to look like this. And I built what has already been demonstrated, a backend version only, by the way, no UI, in about a day or two, just using that. I didn't bother referencing any API or any documentation. I didn't need to. Of course, after that I did, of course. But it was that easy.
That is awesome. And Joel, you actually turned me on to another way you could also use the extract information, which is actually using the styling information to be able to find certain elements there.
Yes. Yeah. I didn't show that during the demo, but I actually had a pretty interesting conversation with a litigation support company just yesterday. And if you turn on the styling, which right now is a beta feature, so it may change a little bit in the future, but what was really critical to them wasn't just to get the paragraph of text. They also needed to know what was bolded, because the bold is actually the beginning parts of kind of sections within the contracts that they were searching for. And the lists that they had, the numbered sections, like, you know, section 2.3.2 or 2.3.4, 2.3.5, all of those were actually meshed into, they were jammed into the paragraph. They weren't hanging off the side. So it didn't look like a list, but it was a list. And they relied on that bolding information in order to differentiate one item from another item. But I want to tag on to something that Adia mentioned about interpreting the JSON. I started working with Extract API when it was in beta, and we didn't have documentation. And it was interesting because when I was about to write my demystifying article that Ben referenced a little bit earlier, put the link up to, I thought, you know, it'd be really great if we actually put a list of all of the elements that we identify somewhere. And I had never looked at the documentation because there wasn't any when it was in beta, or it was scant when it was in beta. And I thought, oh, you know, okay, maybe that should be part of the article. And I went to the documentation, there it was. But I had been working with it for months before I even had to look and see what element items were there, because it looks just like HTML. It is slightly different, but when you look at the path, it's pretty much the end items look like HTML. It's very familiar and very easy to read. So I'm glad you found that to be the case as well. So we have 2 data points, at least. You're muted, Ben.
You're muted, Ben.
There you go.
So there's actually a question that we got on LinkedIn here, which was, what does the process look like after the PDF Extract API has identified potential fragment candidates? Is there a workflow that can be triggered to auto-generate those fragments to be stored in a fragment library? I'm not sure who wants to take that, Jeff or Adia.
Yeah, I can take that. Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, so right now, the plan is that the application will generate that table that you saw, but also give the end user a CSV or Excel file of all that information. Then it's a manual process, basically, of creating the form and the fragment. They'll do a conversion over to the form design tool, as well as create the fragment if it doesn't exist. It'd be great to explore, though, kind of the next step. We're sort of crawling before we run, but I think that's a fantastic idea, is to start actually auto-generating those pieces. Would not be that difficult, and something we should explore.
And I think one of the interesting things that is also along with that, because Extract API gives you a lot of the styling and location information and everything as part of each one of those elements, it wouldn't be hard at all to be able to take that and then transform that into another format or into another fragment, however you need to store those fragments there.
And I think one of the important capabilities that you demonstrated quite clearly in your example there, or in that application there, is that the Extract API can be used to profile PDF files, categorize them, figure out, what's an invoice, what's a contract, what's a resume, and not only that, but since most of the, let's say, for example, invoice generators, the various kinds that are out there, the very simplistic ones are some things from SAP and Salesforce, they're going to have a consistent data signature, even if they look very different. And I think that's what you've been able to demonstrate, is that you can identify these data signatures and differentiate one kind of document or one part of a document from another. That becomes just incredibly powerful.
Adia, from your experience, kind of working with that, with the fragments, what are your thoughts on that?
I find that they are the perfect bite-sized treat for a developer.
Nice.
Yes, as you have a PDF, you don't know who made it, you don't know why they made it, you don't know how they made it, but you have a form, or it's a form in that it's a whole lot of reading and then you sign at the bottom. And all you really care about is you want to treat this PDF file as just text as a developer, because you're going to say, okay, what's this font? What's this font? Okay, this is 6, this is 10. That's not a great match. You just want to treat everything on a textual level. But a PDF is anything but that. PDF is powerful because it's crammed full of data in all these different ways. It might just be an image, but I understand that this service doesn't care. It works it out one way or the other. So now I can pretend a PDF is nothing but a set of JSON objects. And on top of that, there is a tree described. Now it's up to me to actually build up that tree. The JSON is just a bunch of objects, the end. But it describes a tree, and it is a joke to quickly put it into that tree if I want to. And then I can just say, all right, this isn't a PDF, this is JSON. And now I can do what developers have been doing since JSON was invented. I can compare it, I can store it, back it up, I can throw out stuff I don't want, I can add stuff and then pass it on. I'm caching the JSON because they're not big. Why would they be, right? So I don't ask for images because right now I don't care, and if I do, that's another problem. I don't care about tables right now, but if I do, then I can tell the service, hey, from now on, I'm going to scan this twice. Give me all the text, give me all the tables, and see what happens.
I love one of your comments there, which was, it isn't a PDF, it's JSON.
Yeah.
And, I think that is very freeing as a developer, because you're not having to think about, all right, how do I do this? What type of things am I going to have to do with this PDF? What type of Frankensteining am I going to have to do? No, I'm just parsing out JSON data to figure out what I need there.
Yeah.
It's like the Jurassic Park meme. It's JSON. I know this.
And it's exactly that. I had that moment because I got the service up and running, and I got a bunch of PDFs, and they're matching JSON patriots. If you can imagine, every PDF has a JSON version, an alternate version, which isn't JSON. So I immediately froze and went, this is a black box. I can just, as far as I know, I'm not comparing PDFs, I'm comparing JSON.
Right.
JSON structure, JSON contents. And that meant that every annoyance, and I'll be honest, PDF can be annoying to work with, it was gone, and it was just, all right, I better be careful that the fonts are actually compared number to number, right, and so on and so forth. But it just became old hat. And before you knew it, I built something beautiful. So I loved every minute of it.
And it is beautiful.
This will come up, but yes.
Yeah, and it is beautiful. I've been doing this I've been working with PDF files and dealing with the idiosyncrasies, I'll put it that way, of getting data out of them for about 25 years. And what you guys put together to identify sections of a document, I do not give praise easily for anyone else on the call who knows me. Ben in particular. But what you built is phenomenal. I mean, it's really neat, given that you're starting with a PDF file, and it could be a scan, could have been a scan, and you'd still be able to identify it. One of the old jokes, I don't know, criticisms of PDF was the Roach Motel of file formats, because data went in and never came out. You know, Extract has changed that, and I think you guys have done a great implementation of actually applying that.
Hey, Ray, I know that you recently wrote an article around, you know, digging some data around research. So I was wondering, that was kind of your first foray into using Extract API. What are some of your thoughts?
Yeah, I blogged about, excuse me, what I thought would be a kind of a real world scenario where you have science journals that are old, that have data in them, and they've been scanned, and you're like, yeah, great, now it's scanned and I could use it. But unfortunately, it's still over, you know, in my example, 20 different PDF files, 12 pages each, you know, lots and lots of data. Yes, I could have them all on my computer, easy to open, easy to read. But in my scenario, I needed to kind of aggregate that data and work with it. So yes, on my computer, I could open one PDF, one page. I can start copying and pasting data out versus, you know, going to a library and digging a physical old magazine out. But where the Extract API helped is that it was able to go into those PDFs, find the tabular data, and just give me data. And so once the API had done that, I was able to slice and dice that data and create beautiful charts with it, because that's what I do, is I make pretty things. But yeah, and from my Extract usage was pretty simple. It just give me the tables out, but it was incredibly helpful in that scenario.
So we're getting close to our time. What I'd like to do is I'd like to give 30 seconds to each one of you of like, what are some of the additional cool use cases that you're thinking up of with PDF Extract API that you would love to see? Joel, why don't you start off? And 30 seconds.
Yeah, I can make this one real fast. I want to build, and I want to do this as a demo, I want to build a redaction verifier. So one of the problems that so many government organizations and large companies have had is they'll redact a document by highlighting the text that they want to be redacted in Microsoft Word and then just making a black background. Sorry, kids, the text is still there. When you make a PDF, you can't read it visually, but it's still there. It can be copy and pasted out. However, with the redaction tools in Acrobat, you're able to properly redact a document, but people miss things, especially if the document's been scanned. Sometimes you don't get all of the words because you can't search an image. So I want to build a redaction verifier where you can feed a document to Extract API, give it the list of terms that should be redacted, and then check to see if they're actually still there. That's my use case. That would be my ideal.
All right, Jeff.
Yeah, well, I like the suggestion I heard before about actually generating those fragments out of the JSON that we've got. But the other thing that I've been thinking about and need to explore a little bit more is testing, automated testing. So I think there's some great applications here for being able to convert the PDFs over into the JSON format and then verify things that you want to make sure are in place that have been, you know, generated by backend systems, but you want to make sure they're ready to go for production. So that's one thing I'd like to dig into.
Ray?
Something that Joel and I have been talking about is that there's various APIs out there that will take text and look for things like addresses or proper names. It will highlight information in the text. So I think it could be a great demo to take the Extract API to get that text out and combine it with another API to find places or proper names and show how we can get that information out of the PDF.
And Adia?
Yes, so like we've already done, I'd like to combine sort of an analytics bent by, on the left, allowing someone, more of a developer, to put in regex, search combinations of different search requirements, and on the right, not only get just the PDF highlights and so on, but a three-dimensional breakdown using the structure to show this matches and how much with different highlighting, and also that the developer could say, I'm looking for a structure. I want this, and then this inside of it, and then this inside of that, and then show in a pseudo three-dimensional on top of the PDF to the right, whatever matches, if anything.
So let me see if I understand that correctly, because I was thinking of building something that does a regex search. So not only do you want to do a regex for a certain pattern, but only inside a table, or maybe only inside a table header, or only in a footer.
Or only under a footer that's below a H1 that's got an image next to it.
I love it.
Yeah. And then I would place on top of the PDF using the embed just plenty of highlights to say this is close, this doesn't match, just so you know you wanted this, but it doesn't match. And you can look at all of the different nearly hits using fuzzy search, because you need text, you need all the data you can get your hands on for fuzzy match. And this is a fuzzy match machine.
Yeah, you and I are going to have a longer conversation about exactly that.
Well, that's terrible. Let's not do
that.
So we got some feedback from Don here that redaction verification would be awesome, Joel. So that would be a fantastic use case. The one that I'll end with on my part is I've been actually looking at with some customers around using some of the styling information that exists inside of PDFs to be able to split them at different sections. So if you take like large manuals that might be provided that maybe manufacturing companies need to go through some validation and QA, or maybe you have large testing that needs to occur. A lot of times these are big, massive PDFs that they need to be able to split up for people to go through those different tests. And being able to use extract to find those different cut points, you could split out that PDF there, which is another way of understanding the content the way that our eyes see it, to be able to then split it up to do some automated actions there. So everybody, we're actually over time. So thank you everybody for coming today. Thank you for your minds. Thank you for your wisdom today, and thank you for your all the cool things that you've showed. For everybody else out in the audience, we have a couple of just final points. If you like what you saw today, please come subscribe to watch us on a monthly basis on YouTube or LinkedIn. We will do this at the last week of every month on Wednesday at 9 a.m. And we also have these always on demand available. But please go to adobe.com/go/papercuts and go ahead and subscribe to get notifications. The other thing is that please go to the Adobe Tech blog, where you can learn all sorts of things that we're writing about with PDF Extract API, PDF services, document generation. That's where we leave a lot of our little nuggets of information in written form there. So with that, that's all I have. Thank you so much for coming to the session today, and have a wonderful day.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for your time.